Today is June 19th, 2021. My name is Madina Ferdine. I'm interviewing Jonathan Hinshaw for the South Texas Archives at Texas A&M University Kingston. This is part of the Voces of a Pandemic Oral History Project in partnership with the Voices Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. Please note, Mr. Hinshaw, that this recorded interview will be placed in the South Texas Archives at the Texas A&M University Kingsville and shared with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin. If there is anything you do not wish to answer or talk about, especially given that your recording may appear online, I will honor your wishes. Also, if there is something you want to talk about, please bring it up and we'll talk about it. Because we are not conducting this interview in person, I need to record your consenting.
Yes, I do consent.
Okay. So I'll ask you a series of 6 questions. Please say, yes, I agree, or no, I do not agree after each one. These are 4 questions we need to make sure you agree to before we go on. South Texas Archives at Texas A&M University Kingsville wishes to archive your interview, along with any other photographs and other documentations. At the South Texas Archives at Texas A&M University Kingsville, we will retain copyright of the interview and any other materials you donate to the South Texas Archives at Texas A&M University Kingsville. Do you give consent to archive your interview and your materials at the Jurgen Library at Texas A&M University Kingsville?
I do consent.
Do you grant South Texas Archives at the Jurgen Library at the Texas A&M University Kingsville copyright over the interview and any material you provide?
Yes, I do consent.
Do you agree to allow South Texas Archives at the Jurgen Library at Texas A&M University Kingsville to post this interview on the internet where it may be viewed by people around the world?
I do agree.
Do you grant South Texas Archives at the Jurgen Library at Texas A&M University Kingsville consent to share your interview and your material with the Voces Oral History Center at the University of Texas at Austin for inclusion in the Voces of a Pandemic Oral History Project, which will include posting the interview on the internet?
I do consent.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your consent. Let me try and exit out of this really quick. Okay. So for the interview questions, tell me a little bit about your experience with COVID-19.
So my experience with COVID-19, like, actually getting the virus. I did not get the virus, but I had a couple family members around me get the virus with the pandemic. But other than that, I really didn't have too many, close encounters with COVID. So
That's great you didn't get it. How did you first learn about COVID-19? Was it through the radio, the TV?
I saw it on the news. I was, watching the news, and they started to mention the outbreaks going on over there in China, and that's how I heard about it. So then that's it.
What was your initial reaction to the information about COVID-19, like when it originally started?
So my initial reaction, seeing on the news that it wasn't too big of a deal because it was over there in China and it wasn't here in the US or really starting to spread around the world yet. So I really wasn't too worried about, that information.
Right. So at what point then, how did you realize COVID-19 had become serious? Or do you not think it's serious?
I do think it is serious. The point when it kind of started to turn for me was when the cases started slowly popping up around the world in different areas through, people traveling over to China, coming back, like to the US. And then finally, whenever all the cases started rising, then fatalities started happening. It started to become pretty serious at that point.
Yeah. So how has COVID-19 impacted you?
So, me personally, it impacted me by not being able to, you know, gather around a lot of people, my work, as well as, gathering with my family members.
So speaking of family members, has COVID-19 impacted any of your family members as well as any organizations you're a part of?
So, yes, on the family members, my mother actually ended up getting the virus, and a couple other of my family members got it. They're all fine, thankfully, but they had to quarantine, so I wasn't able to, go see them, but I was able to talk to them, and yeah, so.
So how is going out into the world during COVID-19 different from pre-COVID?
So it's different by one, everybody wearing masks. You really can't tell who is who with everybody wearing masks, even though it was a good thing. Um, Also, you know, the fear of actually getting COVID while you go places, you're worried to even go out and do anything.
So how, if at all, has COVID impacted your ability to gather with family and friends for important events?
So it has impacted. I do have elderly family members who we were, in fear of giving them the virus. So we really didn't want to gather together, to spread the virus to them because they're more at a high risk than, younger people. So that's
So what about wearing masks? How do you feel about that?
so. I guess I think masks are a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
It may not stop COVID altogether, but I think it definitely can. So
So has COVID-19 impacted your work? Okay, I think we lost each other. Can you hear me? How has COVID impacted your work? I think you have your audio off.
all right, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you. So how has COVID impacted your work?
So I was working in construction for the past, I would say, about year and a half, and
Mm-hmm.
construction being a essential, job, we really didn't stop work. Work pretty much stayed the same. So I was still going to work. It impacted it by gatherings, like in the office, as well as having to wear masks, and we'd have to wear them out there on the job site. And it's pretty hot out there, so yeah, just less gatherings in the office with the contractors, and that's pretty much it.
So is there anything else you would like to share with me about your experiences with COVID-19 that I have not asked you about?
Um, I would say just how I kind of mentioned a little earlier that my mom was in the healthcare industry, and she got to witness, a lot of COVID fatalities,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of impacted her, therefore impacting, the rest of us as well.
Right. Well, I really appreciate
So
you doing
that's
this.
about it. So, yep. Thank you for having me.